For 7 endless days, I couldn't reach my parents. No calls, no messages, just silence thick and unnatural. At first, I tried to convince myself they were busy, maybe on a short trip. But by day 7, something inside me snapped. I packed a bag and drove all night, my mind racing with every terrible possibility I refused to say out loud. When I arrived, their house was dark. The front door hung open like a mouth mid-scream. Inside ruin, broken glass glittered under the moonlight. My mother's favorite vase lay in shards beside a toppled chair. "Mom?" I whispered. No answer. Then, I heard it, a soft, trembling sound coming from the hallway closet. Breathing. Slow, uneven, human. I froze, my pulse hammering in my throat. Something or someone was inside, and in that moment, I realized whatever was waiting for me behind that door would change everything. My name is Olivia Hart, and until last night, I thought I had outgrown fear. I live in Los Angeles now, surrounded by noise and neon, but I grew up in a quiet Nevada town where everyone knew everyone else. Back then, our little grocery store on Maple Street was my whole world. My parents, Richard and Elaine, worked from dawn till nightfall, serving the same loyal customers for 30 years. They were kind, humble people too. Kind, maybe. And then there was Ethan, my younger brother, the golden child, the boy who could do no wrong. He had that smile that could melt hearts, that charm that turned trouble into misunderstanding. When we were kids, I'd clean the shelves after school while Ethan sat on the counter eating free candy, Mom laughing like it was the cutest thing in the world. Me? I was the responsible one. The voice of reason. The boring sister. I tried not to mind, I really did, but every time Ethan got away with something, a little part of me hardened. When I moved away for college, I told myself it was for opportunity, but deep down, I just needed to breathe somewhere that didn't smell like guilt and spilled beer. Life in LA was loud, exhausting, but mine. I built a career as an event planner, worked 16-hour days, and told myself I'd made it. I'd escaped. But escape is a funny word. You can run for miles and still carry the same ghosts. A few months ago, Dad called me late at night. His voice was shaky, I hadn't heard that tone in years. "Liv," he said, "your brother's in trouble again." I remember sighing, rubbing my temples. "What now?" He hesitated. "Debts. The gambling kind. But don't worry, we'll fix it." "Dad," I warned, "don't give him money again." He didn't reply. Just a long pause before he whispered, "He's still my son." That call haunted me for weeks. I knew how this story went, I'd seen it too many times. Ethan would promise to change, my parents would believe him, and then everything would fall apart again. Still, I didn't call back. I didn't check in. I buried myself in work and told myself it wasn't my problem anymore. And yet, when they stopped answering the phone, when the silence stretched past reason, I knew I couldn't ignore it. Not this time. Because somewhere deep down, I felt it. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was wrong. It started small, an unanswered call on a Monday afternoon. I was in the middle of a client meeting when Mom's name flashed on my phone. I told myself I'd call her back later. When I finally did that evening, the line rang and rang before dropping into voicemail. "Hey Mom," I said lightly. "Sorry I missed you. Call me back, okay?" She never did. By Tuesday, I'd called 3 times. No answer. Wednesday, I texted Dad. "You guys okay? Haven't heard from you." The message was delivered but never read. That was when unease started to creep and a cold, slow ache under my ribs. Thursday came and went. I called the store. No one picked up. Friday morning, I checked the local news online, half expecting to find something, a storm, a power outage, anything. But Reno was quiet. Too quiet. Saturday night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone as if I could will it to ring. Every time I tried to sleep, my mind replayed Dad's voice from that last call. He's still my son. Sunday afternoon, I opened the store's Facebook page. The latest post froze my blood. "Closed this week due to family matters. Thank you for understanding." My parents never closed the store. Not for sickness, not for vacations, not even after Dad's heart scare 3 years ago. For them to shut it down completely? Something was wrong. I grabbed my phone, and dialed Mrs. Collins, our old neighbor. She answered on the second ring, her voice tight. "Olivia, I'm glad you called. I've been worried sick." "What's going on?" I asked. "The store's been closed all week. The lights are off, and—" She hesitated, voice lowering. "I saw Ethan there 2 nights ago." My breath caught. "Ethan? Are you sure?" "As sure as I'm standing here. He was with 2 men rough-looking. They parked a black truck outside, stayed about half an hour. Then they left. I thought maybe your parents were helping him again." My stomach twisted. "No, Mrs. Collins. They wouldn't—" But even as I said it, I knew she was right. They would. They always did. After the call, I just sat there, staring at the wall, the words rough-looking men echoing in my head. That night, the sky over Los Angeles glowed orange from the city lights. I threw some clothes into a duffel bag, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it. "Not again," I whispered to myself. "Please, not again." And before I could talk myself out of it, I grabbed my car keys, slammed the door behind me, and started the 7-hour drive back to Nevada, back to the house where silence had started to sound like a scream. The drive from Los Angeles to Reno felt endless. The desert stretched around me like a hollow grave, miles of nothing but sand, wind, and the low hum of the highway. My hands were tight on the wheel, knuckles pale in the dashboard light. Every mile felt heavier than the last. By the time I crossed into Nevada, it was nearly midnight. The town sign, "Welcome to Maple Street," flickered weakly under the yellow glow of a single lamppost. The place where I'd grown up, where everything once felt safe, now looked foreign, hollowed out by shadows. When I turned onto Main Street, my heart sank. The grocery store Hart's Market was dark. No warm lights in the windows, no smell of baked bread, no faint laughter of customers, just silence. The big wooden sign Dad had painted himself years ago hung crooked, creaking softly in the wind. I parked the car in front and sat there for a long moment, my engine idling. I told myself to call the police right then, but my fingers refused to move. Instead, I got out and walked toward the store, my shoes crunching over the gravel. Through the window, I could see dust floating in the air, shelves half empty, and a chair overturned behind the counter. The place looked frozen in time, as if my parents had vanished mid-task. "Mom?" I whispered through the glass, absurdly hoping she'd appear from behind the register, scolding me for showing up unannounced. Nothing. A hollow ache filled my chest. I turned toward our old family home a few blocks away, the one with the leaning mailbox and the old oak tree Dad swore he'd cut down every year but never did. The porch light was off, the curtains drawn. The air smelled faintly of wet earth and something metallic. "Mom? Dad?" I called again, louder this time. The front door was open, not wide, just enough for the wind to nudge it against the frame with a soft thud. 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 My pulse spiked. I pushed the door slowly. It creaked, the sound echoing through the dark hallway. The smell hit me first, dust, rot, and something sour that made my stomach turn. The living room was chaos. Furniture overturned, a lamp smashed, papers scattered like snow. Mom's favorite photo frame, the one from my college graduation, lay shattered on the floor, the picture face down. "Dad?" My voice cracked. Silence. I stepped forward, careful not to step on the broken glass. Then I noticed something faint, muddy footprints leading down the hallway. They were big. Not Mom's, not Dad's. And right there, glinting under the weak moonlight seeping through the window, was Mom's wedding ring, lying beside a toppled chair. I picked it up with trembling fingers, whispering, "What happened here?" The silence didn't answer, but I could feel the house listening. I stood frozen in the middle of the living room, the wedding ring cold in my hand. Everything in me screamed to leave, to call the police, to run, but something stronger, something desperate, kept me rooted to that spot. "Mom?" I tried again, my voice breaking in the still air. "Dad?" No answer, just the wind brushing the curtains. I took a slow step forward, then another, the wooden floor creaking beneath me. The air felt thick, stale, wrong. The faint smell of something metallic lingered, blood or rust. I couldn't tell. A soft sound broke through the silence, a small, shaky breath. It came from the hallway, from the closet at the far end. Every instinct screamed, "Don't go," but my feet moved anyway. The closer I got, the louder my heartbeat grew, a drum pounding inside my skull. I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence, then a faint whimper. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. My reflection in the hallway mirror looked pale, ghost-like. For a second, I thought I saw someone move behind me. I spun around. Nothing. "Okay, Liv," I whispered to myself. "Breathe. Just breathe." The door handle was cold, slick with dust. I swallowed hard and pulled. The hinges groaned, opening into darkness. At first, I saw nothing, just old coats, boxes stacked high, and the faint smell of mothballs. Then, movement. Something shifted in the corner. I stepped closer, heart hammering. "Hello?" A small shape stirred. My breath caught, and then I saw him. A little boy, maybe 6 or 7, knees pulled to his chest, eyes wide and glassy. His cheeks were streaked with dried tears, his clothes crumpled, filthy, clinging to his tiny frame. "Jace," I whispered. "Oh my God, Jace?" He flinched, eyes darting toward me in terror. "Sweetheart," I said softly, kneeling down. "It's Aunt Liv. It's me." For a moment, he didn't move, just stared, trembling. Then, as if my voice finally broke through the fog, he blinked once, twice, and then collapsed forward into my arms. He was so light, too light. His skin felt clammy, his heartbeat fluttering like a trapped bird. "Oh God, you're freezing," I murmured, pulling my jacket around him. "Jace, it's okay. You're safe now." But he wasn't listening. His breathing came in ragged bursts, his little hands clutching a torn teddy bear so tightly the seams were splitting. He whispered something so faint I almost didn't hear it. "Grandma! Grandpa!" My throat tightened. "Where are they, sweetheart? Where's Grandma and Grandpa?" He shook his head violently, sobs racking his tiny body. I held him close, my own tears burning hot. "Shh, it's okay, baby. You're safe, I promise." He didn't answer. He just buried his face in my shoulder and went limp. For a moment, the house was completely silent again except for my own shaking breath. I pressed my ear against his chest. He was alive, but weak. I had to get him help. I stood up, cradling him in my arms. His small fingers clung to the fabric of my shirt as if letting go meant falling back into the nightmare. As I stepped toward the front door, the hallway light flickered. Once, twice, and then I heard something upstairs. A slow, deliberate creak. I froze. Someone or something was still in the house. Every hair on my body stood on end. My heart thudded so loudly I thought whoever was up there could hear it too. I backed toward the door, whispering, "It's okay, Jace. Hang on, honey. We're getting out." One last look around the broken furniture, the cracked wall, the shadows swallowing the staircase. Then I ran. Out the door, down the porch steps, into the cold night. I didn't stop until I reached my car. Jace was barely conscious, his head against my shoulder. As I started the engine, the headlights swept across the house. For a fraction of a second, I thought I saw a figure in the upstairs window motionless, watching. But when I blinked, it was gone. And all that remained was the echo of my own voice, whispering into the dark. I should have called the police first. At the hospital, the white lights felt too bright, too clean, like they were trying to erase what I'd just seen. Jace lay motionless on the gurney, his little hand clutching that torn teddy bear even as the nurses worked around him. "He's severely dehydrated," one nurse murmured. "Malnourished too, probably hiding for days." Days. The word hit like a knife. He had been alone in that nightmare of a house for days. I stood in the hallway, numb, the smell of antiseptic making me dizzy. When the doctor came out, he said Jace would recover physically but emotionally. "He's in shock. We'll keep him for observation." I nodded, unable to speak. My throat burned with guilt. I had left my parents to handle everything, and now, the automatic doors hissed open behind me. A man stepped in mid-40s, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket and a tired expression. "Olivia Hart?" he asked, flashing a badge. "Detective Mason Turner, Reno Police Department." I exhaled shakily. Thank God. Please, you need to go to their house. My parents are gone. Everything's. I already have a team there, he interrupted gently. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me everything. I told him. About the calls, the store being closed, the broken furniture, the footprints, the ring and the sound from the closet. He listened in silence, jotting notes, only breaking eye contact to glance toward Jace through the glass. When I mentioned my brother, Mason's pen stopped. Ethan Hart, you're saying he was seen at the store recently? Yes, I said quickly. Our neighbor, Mrs. Collins, she saw him with 2 men a few nights ago. Mason's jaw tightened. Do you know who these men are? No, I said. But I can guess why they were there. He nodded grimly. Debts? I looked away. Always debts. Mason made a call. Get forensics to check for prints, shoe sizes, any trace of forced entry, he said. Then he turned back to me. And Miss Hart, I'll need you to stay in town. We may have to ask the boy some questions once he's stable. My stomach twisted. He's 6 years old, detective. He's terrified. I know, Mason said softly. But he might be the only one who saw what happened. A few hours later, he drove me back to the house. The flashing red and blue lights cast eerie shadows across the yard. Yellow tape stretched across the porch like a wound. Inside, officers moved quietly, photographing the mess. One of them called out, Detective, you'll want to see this. In the kitchen, near the back door, a small smear of blood glistened under the flashlight. Next to it, a wallet. Mason knelt, opened it, and his expression darkened. He handed it to me. Inside, beneath an old ID card, was a photo I knew too well, Ethan, grinning beside my parents, taken years ago at a barbecue. My stomach dropped. Looks like we found your brothers, Mason said. I stared at the wallet in his gloved hand, my voice barely a whisper. Then he was here. And in that instant, the silence of the house no longer felt empty. It felt haunted. Jace didn't wake until the next morning. When he did, he looked small and lost under the hospital blankets, his brown hair sticking to his forehead, his lips pale. The heart monitor beeped softly beside him, steady, fragile. I sat by his bed, clutching a paper cup of cold coffee. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Hey, sweetheart, I whispered, brushing his hair back. It's Aunt Liv. You're safe now, okay? His eyes fluttered open. Confusion flashed across them before recognition slowly settled. Aunt Liv? I smiled through tears. Yeah, it's me. He blinked, his voice barely a whisper. Where's Grandma? The question sliced through me. I swallowed hard. We're trying to find her, baby. The police are helping. Detective Mason stepped closer, his notebook in hand, speaking softly. Hey there, Jace. My name's Mason. I'm just here to talk, okay? You don't have to be scared. Hell, Jace clutched his teddy bear tighter. His tiny fingers trembled. Mason kept his tone gentle. Can you tell me what happened at the house? For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of machines. Then, in a trembling voice, Jace began. Daddy came late at night. His lip quivered. He was mad. Grandma told him to leave, but he yelled. Grandpa yelled too. Then, he stopped, breathing unevenly. I squeezed his hand. It's okay, sweetheart. You're doing great. There was a loud crash, he whispered. The table broke. Grandma screamed. Daddy pushed Grandpa, and then, his little face crumpled, and then everything went quiet. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I even realized I was crying. Mason spoke softly, steady but grave. Did you see anyone else, Jace? Was anyone with your daddy? The boy nodded. 2 men. They had tattoos. One had a snake on his neck. They were scary. He buried his face in the teddy bear, his voice muffled. I ran. I hid in the closet. I heard glass breaking, and Grandma crying. And then, nothing. I couldn't breathe. The air around me thickened, pressing on my chest. Mason gave me a look, one that said everything without words. Jace's sobs grew louder until his little body shook. Is Daddy in trouble? I took his face in my hands, tears streaking my cheeks. Sweetheart, Daddy made some bad choices. But you did the right thing, hiding. You're so brave, Jace. So brave. He nodded weakly, eyes wide with fear and guilt, far too heavy for a child. Mason closed his notebook and stood. "We'll find your dad," he said quietly. "You have my word." After the detective left, I stayed beside Jace, watching his breathing slow as he drifted back into sleep. My reflection in the window looked like a stranger, hollow eyes, smeared mascara, haunted by the truth I didn't want to say out loud. Ethan wasn't missing. He was running. And if what Jace said was true, my parents weren't missing either. They were gone. The realization hit like a physical blow. My body shook, not from fear this time, but from anger, raw, consuming anger. I pressed my hand to the glass, staring out at the morning light creeping over Reno. "You did this, Ethan," I whispered. "You brought this to our family." But another voice, softer, crueler, whispered back from somewhere deep inside me. "You knew what he was, Olivia. You just didn't stop him." That thought followed me long after I left the hospital. A ghost I couldn't silence, no matter how hard I tried. 2 days later, Detective Mason called. His tone was tight, like someone holding his breath. "Olivia," he said, "we found something in your parents' house. I think you need to see it yourself." I didn't hesitate. When I arrived, the yellow police tape still fluttered in the cold wind. Inside, the air felt different, heavier, like the walls themselves knew what had happened. Mason led me to the living room, where everything was still in ruins, and then toward my father's study. On the old wooden desk, worn smooth from years of use, lay a single envelope. My name was scrawled across it in my father's handwriting. "Olivia." I felt my knees weaken. "Where did you find this?" "In the top drawer," Mason said. "It was tucked under a ledger book. I think he left it for you." My fingers trembled as I reached for it. The paper was yellowed, the ink smudged, as if written in a rush. "Take your time," Mason said softly, stepping back. I unfolded it, my hands shaking so violently I almost tore it. "Liv, if you're reading this, things have gone too far. We've tried to help your brother. God knows we did. But Ethan isn't the boy we raised anymore. He's desperate, dangerous. He's been coming to the house with men who scare your mother to death. He says he'll sell the store, that it's the only way to pay them back. We refused. He threatened us. We're scared, Liv. If anything happens to us, take care of Jace. He's innocent. And please, forgive us. We failed to protect you both from him." The letter blurred as tears filled my eyes. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Dad's voice echoed in my head. "He's still my son," I whispered. "You kept forgiving him, even when it killed you." Mason watched quietly, giving me space. Then he said gently, "We traced Ethan's car to a motel on the outskirts of town. We're moving in tonight. I thought you'd want to know." I nodded, wiping my eyes. "I'm coming with you." He hesitated. "Olivia." "No." My voice was sharp. "I've run away from this long enough." That night, the Reno air was icy, the kind that cuts straight through your coat. The motel was a rundown dump with flickering neon lights that read vacancy in red. Police cruisers lined the parking lot, their engines humming quietly. Mason looked at me from across the hood of his car. "He's inside. Room 12, my pulse thundered. "Is he armed?" "Maybe. We're going in slow." They approached the door in formation. I stood a few feet back, my breath fogging in the cold air. My mind raced, part of me still praying they were wrong, that somehow my brother wasn't the monster the evidence made him out to be. A loud bang, the door burst open. Shouting. Footsteps. Then silence. Moments later, 2 officers emerged, dragging Ethan in handcuffs. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his face hollow. When he saw me, he froze. "Liv?" My throat tightened. "You killed them." He shook his head weakly. It wasn't supposed to happen like that." Mason stood nearby, stone-faced. "Let him talk," he said. Ethan's words spilled out like poison. "I just wanted money, that's all. I thought Dad would help me again." He refused. He said he was done cleaning up after me. His voice cracked. "I lost control, okay? I didn't mean to hurt them." I stared at him, shaking. "You lost control? You beat them, Ethan. You left their grandson hiding in a closet for days." He looked down, tears forming in his bloodshot eyes. I panicked. I called some guys from the casino. They helped me move them. I didn't know what else to do. I took a step closer until we were only a few feet apart. You didn't just destroy them, Ethan. You destroyed everything they stood for. He said nothing, just whispered, I didn't think you'd come back. Neither did they, I said coldly. Mason turned toward me. Olivia, we found remains this afternoon in a vacant lot a few miles from the house. DNA results are pending, but I didn't let him finish. My body went numb. I already knew. I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, please. Mason's voice softened. I'm sorry. Ethan's knees buckled, and he fell forward, sobbing. I didn't mean to kill them. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he'd caused, but I couldn't move. Instead, I whispered, You didn't just kill Mom and Dad. You killed the part of me that still believed you could be saved. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Mason ordered the officers to take him away. As they dragged Ethan toward the squad car, I stood in the cold night, watching the brother I used to protect now just a shadow in handcuffs. Mason approached quietly. You did the right thing coming back, he said. I turned to him, my voice raw. No, detective, the right thing would have been stopping him years ago. And as the red and blue lights flashed against the motel's cracked walls, I finally let the tears fall. Because this wasn't just the end of a case, it was the end of a family. The funeral was small, quiet, just the way Mom would have wanted. White lilies lined the caskets, the church smelled faintly of wax and rain, and the air hung heavy with the kind of silence that makes your chest ache. I stood between two headstones, my hand resting on the coffin where both my parents lay side by side. Jace was beside me, his tiny hand gripping mine. He didn't cry, he just stared, wide-eyed and pale, clutching that worn teddy bear like it was the only piece of safety left in the world. When the priest's voice faded into the hum of the wind, Jace whispered, Aunt Liv, are Grandma and Grandpa in heaven? I knelt, brushing a tear from his cheek. Yes, sweetheart, they are. And they're watching us right now. He nodded slowly, still holding my hand. Then I'll wave so they know we're okay. And he did, lifting his little arm, waving into the cold, gray sky. My heart broke and healed all at once. After the funeral, I packed up what was left of the house. The shelves were empty, the walls bare, but the ghosts lingered memories, clinging like dust. Dad's work gloves, still hanging on a nail by the back door. Mom's recipe book, pages smudged with flour and love. I couldn't stay there. The house that once felt alive now felt like a tomb. So, I sold the store, the house, everything. The money went into a fund for Jace's future, a promise I made in front of their graves. He'll never grow up like Ethan did, I swore silently. He'll know love, but he'll also know limits. We moved to Los Angeles. I found a small apartment on the edge of the city, where the noise of traffic fills the spaces silence used to haunt. Jace started school again. The first few nights, he woke up screaming, calling for his grandparents. I'd rush into his room, hold him until his breathing slowed, whispering, You're safe now. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Weeks passed. The nightmares grew shorter, the smiles longer. One evening, as the city lights blinked below our window, Jace tugged on my sleeve. Aunt Liv? Yeah, buddy? He looked up at me with those same soft brown eyes Mom used to have. Can I stay with you forever? I pulled him into a hug, my throat tightening. Forever, sweetheart. You and me always. That night, after he fell asleep, I stood by the window, looking at the endless stretch of city light. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't dared to before. Peace. I still dream of the old house sometimes, of the creaking door, the smell of bread, and the faint sound of laughter from years ago. But when I wake, I don't cry. Because I finally understand what Mom and Dad meant in that letter. Love isn't just forgiveness, it's responsibility. It's choosing who to save before it's too late. And though I couldn't save them, I saved him. That's what remains.